So after 10 minutes, let's try and break up these crabs to get everything out of them. Now that we have the bodies broken, more of a just break them up as much as you can. And the claws and everything. And I'm going to let this simmer about a half hour. Then I'm going to strain it. That's good. Half hour is plenty of time. Extract everything out of that crab. Then we'll go about making that chowder. Well, I've found a few more crabs, so we're going to, these are live. Just put them in there quickly. And we're going to add this to what we have cooking already in a few minutes. So now we have a good amount. Well, you saw the amount of crabs that I put in earlier. So these 3 medium and 2 small ones are added to it, so you have an idea of how much crab I'm using. Now I'm going to crack these up just like I did the other ones, and wait a little while and strain this delicious stock. The aroma is so strong with this clam. This is going to, anytime you use everything that's fresh, it has to come out good. There are no canned products here, no frozen items. So I'm going to put the crabs into this stainless steel colander, because we're going to break them up even more to get all of the juice out of the crabs. Strain everything here through a chinois, and then we're going to sweat up the vegetables. From this point on, after this hard work here with the crab, the rest of it is relatively simple. So now we just break this up, and more juice will come out. Well, that's enough of that. I just had a workout pounding all of this. I could have taken the claws and picked the meat out, but I care more about having the juice, the stock, and all the juices from inside the crab than I do about having a piece of crab. You can always buy a little can of crab meat or that fake surimi if you want, and dice it up and throw it in for looks. But the flavor is going to be there. Now I'll just let this sit, let gravity get some more out. See? That would have been thrown into the garbage if we didn't do this. Now we go about straining the stock through a chinois, very fine mesh strainer. You can use cheesecloth if you have it. And then we'll see how much we come out with. Well, we've come out with 1 quart of stock, which is good. With all the vegetables, we should wind up with about 2 quarts of soup. So, if you don't have that much, then just add water, because the strength is there for the amount of crabs. And if you have more than that, much more, maybe you have to reduce it a little. I was going to call this a crab and corn chowder, but since I'm putting all of this in there, let's just call it a crab and vegetable chowder. All of these items work with each other, and it's going to be a hearty, heavy soup. It's not going to have pieces of crab meat in it because we're going to pulverize the crab and just use the delicious stock. But I have butternut squash, works with the pepper, works with the onion, jalapeno, that works with the carrot, with the tomato, the celery, some fresh basil, and the corn, and zucchini. Beautiful items, done in the proper steps. We're going to come out with a pot full, that pot right back there that's cooking the crab. That pot should be full by the time we get finished. Anyway, I'm going to dice everything up, and by that time the crabs will be finished and we can crush them, drain all the stock off, and get going. And I'm going to throw some freshly cooked garbanzo beans in there. So this is kind of a healthy item. And if it wasn't for the crab, it's a nice vegan little chowder there, or stew. And of course, the heavy cream is waiting to be added to this at the end. Well, there's the butternut squash, the onions, the carrots, and the garlic. We're going to sweat those up first. Get the stock cooking in them. And later on, I'm going to add the pepper and the onion. And the tomato will go in there in between. And I wrote down 1 loosely packed cup of basil, and then I'm going to like mince this up a little and throw this in at the very end. I usually take the kernels off the corn, but I realized that the corn has flavor, just like bones on a chicken have flavor. So the cob has flavor. So I'm going to put this into the soup and cook it, and then later take the corn off. Butter or oil, just put a little bit in there to sweat it up. This time I'm not using any butter on this because I'll be eating the soup and I've had enough butter with everything else. But butter tastes great. So, put the vegetables in there that I just showed you and sweat them up. We're not looking for color because this is going to be kind of white looking. And we're going to thicken this up a little later. You could thicken it with cornstarch, but since it's going to be white, you can use a roux, but I'm going to use Wondra, and that'll keep the color the way I want. So just cook this gently for a few minutes. You don't have to season anything because it's a soup. Season everything at the very end with salt and pepper. Anything I'm going to put in there now is some thyme, because thyme usually goes into a chowder. And this will bring out more flavor of this thyme. At this time, what thyme? 1 teaspoon. And we'll see how that works. So, moderate flame. Just sweat this up. Cook it until the onions are like translucent. And then I'm going to put the tomatoes in a couple of minutes while that's sweating up. Now I'll add the tomatoes. And the only reason why I'm not adding, well, I could add the pepper, but I'm not adding the zucchini because it's so delicate. I'd rather add it at the very end. Was it take like 2 minutes to cook in this liquid? A couple of more minutes and then I'm going to add the stock. How about the celery? Did I forget that? I'm going to put that in there right away. Yeah, I think I'm going to change the name on this again. Let's call this a crab and vegetable stew. Now it's time to add the stock. Now I wouldn't normally cook this in this type of pan, and the only reason I'm doing it so you could get a good visual on it. Otherwise I would have put it in something narrower and deeper. Especially so that, well, the corn's still going to cook, but it would be covered. So now we're going to simmer this. Well, first we'll bring it to a boil. We'll throw the peppers in there. So the only thing left really to add to this at the very end is the basil and the zucchini. And to give it a little body with some Wondra and the heavy cream. Before I do all of that, when this is done cooking, everything is tender, then I'm going to season it. Okay, bring it to boil, let it simmer. And you know when it's done, when the butternut squash, the carrots are a little tender, that's it. The corn's going to cook no matter what. So we'll just cover this up and wait. How about this? The jalapeno, you forgot this too. When I have so many things laying around, and if that comes out to be too hot, I'll just make adjustments on the recipe. But I don't think so. And while you're cooking this, look at the level that you started at. If it goes down from that level, add water. It's not going to dilute it. Because the more you reduce this, the stronger it gets with everything. So just keep the liquid level at the same point it was after you added all the vegetables. Well, that didn't take long, just about 15-20 minutes for the carrots and the butternut squash to get tender. So I take out the corn, let this cool a little so I don't burn my fingers. Shave the kernels right off and put them back in there. Meanwhile, I'm going to season this with a little sea salt and pepper. Taste it, thicken it up, and get finished. This is common sense, the Wondra. Let it come out through the holes, not the big opening. And what you do is you shake a little. And you wait, and you mix. And you allow it to thicken slightly. It's not going to be very, very thick. But I like the vegetables to float free and not sink to the bottom. So this will help it. And we're almost done. As you see, that already has a little bit of body to it. So it's not going to take much more. Because we don't want to make wallpaper paste. That's enough. I'll get the heavy cream. And to this, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of heavy cream. Now it looks like a chowder. And then we're going to taste it for the seasoning. You know what? There was a lot of vegetables in there. They kind of took away that heavy crab flavor. But you know, if it tastes good, that's all that matters. And this is very tasty. So now we'll finish it up with the basil and the zucchini. And a little more salt, because once you put this in there, you could spice it up if you want to put a little cayenne pepper instead of black pepper. But the salt is really what brings out the flavor of any kind of soup or sauce. Other things you can get away with it, you know, like if the steak or the chicken doesn't have enough salt, well, it usually tastes pretty good. But when it comes to soup and sauces, they must have a nice flavor, and that's what salt does. So use sea salt anyway. Now, that is really good. So you see how much we have here? Let's make a portion, and then you'll see how much we have. Because when it comes to serving soups for dinner, don't forget there are a lot of other courses to serve. And if somebody wants seconds, they can have it, but usually they won't. That's one portion. How many do I have in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6. So, you know, if you're having 6 people over for dinner and you like to serve this, it's plenty. And if you also want to add some, like I said, the sea legs, if you want to save money, just dice them up and throw them in there. Or buy a can of crab claw meat, which is much cheaper than the lump crab meat. It's silly to kind of waste lump crab meat in something like this. You know, that's good for crab cakes, or if you just want to have a crab cocktail, crab stuffing. There you go. I'm liking this, and I hope you enjoy it too.